Welcome back to Whitt Acres. It's time for another garden tour. Today we're going to be starting with the vegetable garden because it's probably looking the best out of all the gardens right now. Even without any blooms, the structure of the entrance gate's making it look really nice already this year. We do have a couple things blooming, like some portulaca. We have a yellow portulaca coming into bloom right now. And we have a pink snapdragon as well. Even in the young stages of the plants, I think it still looks really nice out here now that it's mulched and has the stone for a little bit of structure. I am gonna bring in my other redbud tree to replace that one that died off. So that's gonna add a little bit of foliage color too down here. Just inside the garden, the dianthus is still blooming, some nice bright pinks. We finally did a harvest on the high density bed, so you can see it is looking a little bit more empty than it was before. And we have a giant pumpkin growing out of that side and a squash or something growing out of this side. There's a lot of good chard and kale here for me, and a lot of tango leaf lettuce that's still going to be coming back after this cut. The red romaine's gonna keep coming back. I actually left this one go to see if I can form a romaine heart, since I've never had one before. I wanted to see with this plant if it would happen. Might be a little bit hot for this because we're gonna see some 90-degree weather next week, and a lot of these greens are not gonna like that. The beets are pretty small. They got shaded out by everything else. The parsnips and the radishes, or the turnips and the radishes, kind of shaded them out really quick and early on. So same with the onions. That's why they're not looking too good and not actually standing up too straight. So now that I have all the other radishes and turnips out of there, they should get a lot more sunlight and start doing better from now on. My carrots here are looking pretty good. I didn't thin these out at all, so we'll see how they do. There are a couple that are side by side, but many of them are already spaced out. What's that? A lot of weeds in there too. What is looking the best right now is the J bed. It is looking nice and full. There's a nice area of cabbages that's looking real healthy, and some broccoli down here that's looking even healthier. Really nice color to the leaves of the broccoli. Hopefully they'll start putting something on. The nasturtium I transplanted survived, and the marigolds and the artichoke are doing their thing. Look at these lettuces. This is red tango and green tango leaf lettuce, and they're just getting massive. They're bolting right now, and I'm just enjoying watching the show. I planned on cutting these down, but I really don't want to at this point. I just want to see what the plant can do. It's almost like a Christmas tree right now, a tall arborvitae. But yeah, it looks good inside this obelisk, and I'm gonna see how it flowers this year. Maybe get some seeds for next year. Isn't that just a beautiful sight? These cabbages all looking really nice and healthy. My shadow's in the way, but the onions are all speckled in between the cabbages, and they're starting to bulb up to where I could definitely twist some of these out for some dinner and some lunch. Poppy, are you locked out? Come here, buddy. There's so many gates on the garden now. We are fully fenced in, so Puppy can't get in unless I let him in. I just finished the fencing around the back of the squash mound, so we are fully fenced in this year, and I don't have to yell at the dogs all year whenever they're here and we're all hanging out. I don't have to yell at them for coming into the garden. There's a volunteer squash right here with a volunteer zucchini maybe growing up right behind it, so I'm leaving these go in this bed. This is the area that I used to have my straight bed in, and I moved it so I could have access to the pumpkin patch with machinery if we need to. So the pumpkin patch is not what it used to be last year. I did get overtaken by weeds and kind of got behind schedule, but I do have my mounds in, and the pumpkins are looking healthy. These are Dill's Atlantic giant pumpkins and some piles of mushroom compost that they're planted in. And these are the two smaller ones. Look at these ones, they are big. So that one's doing pretty well, and this one's doing the best. And hopefully this one does actually continue to do the best, because this is the one I wanted to actually grow out, because it's in the best position of the pumpkin patch to fan out there. So we'll see how this one does. I'm gonna do my best to take care of it this year and try and get a big pumpkin, because last year was a big failure. We blew it up at about 120 pounds, so hopefully I can get a bigger pumpkin this year. A lot of volunteer calendula are coming up right here in the pumpkin patch along the vegetable row, and it's blooming beautifully right now. I planted the volunteers that I pulled out of the J bed whenever I was filling that up, and I planted them in here, and you can see they're doing really healthy. They're doing a lot better than any of the seeds that I would have sown at that time, so I'm glad that I saved these volunteers, and maybe I'll be able to get some food off of them for the animals or even for myself. I haven't got all the tomatoes in, but I did get one cucumber in. It's right here, and it's not looking too healthy, but we'll see how he does. And I haven't filled up the tomato fence yet, and I don't know if it's going to do too well this year, but I'll try and get the tomatoes that I still have in the cells out here as soon as I can. I've just been so busy with so many other things. But I did get a cucumber in right here. But we'll see how it does. I'm going to grow it up the trellis so it would be vertically grown and not across the ground. It should be a lot easier to pick that way. I grew them that way last year and I really liked it. Puppy, you can't get out either. You got to stay here and hang out. Yep, you're staying here, bub. So the straight bed is planted out. I got this one finished off. I got it moved over here with my brother's gator, drug it over, and then I filled it up right here with the compost, and then planted it out with everything I had started. I even had some extra onions that I plugged in here in groups just to get some onion greens and some bunching onions out of them. We have a Ace 55 tomato on this side. Complete opposite is a Geranium Kiss tomato. They're both determinate types, but the Ace 55 will put on a nice big slicer tomato, and the Geranium Kiss puts on perfect little grape-sized tomatoes. We have a marigold here planted on the corner, and it's getting real tall. It's already almost 2 feet tall. Puppy, you want to go back out? All right, go ahead. So in the rest of this bed, I have a zucchini planted there, and then 2 lines of Brussels sprouts. I don't know if those are going to actually do anything this year, but I started them, so I wanted to get them in the ground so they could have a chance. Right behind that, my aunt gave me a pippin pepper. It's supposed to be a sweet snacking pepper. So I'm going to thin this out to the strongest one here now and let one of them go, and maybe I'll get some nice peppers off of them. Then on this side of the bed, we have another zucchini there, and then I have 3 there and 1 here, first prize pumpkins that I'm going to grow out of the box and have them trained out here into the grassy area. We have the Geranium Kiss tomato here, and then we have the Calendula. It's just coming into a bloom. It's a really good idea to have calendula all through your vegetable garden because it has a sticky substance on it to where it attracts aphids, and then they get stuck all to it and trapped, so they don't actually make it to all your other plants. Plus it has pretty colors and draws in the pollinators as well. Behind that, struggling because I didn't harden them off properly, is some cucumbers. So these are my other cucumbers. I think they are Market Moors. So I'm hoping that they establish and start taking off, and I'll grow them out and maybe even up the fence line here. We'll see how that goes. Just gonna take a moment now to appreciate the way the garden looks. Put a lot of effort into framing out this fence, building the entryway, getting all these boxes in, getting them filled up and planted. And right now everything is in and it can just start growing. I can relax a little bit and focus on some other areas of the property while all of these start growing and producing food for me. This side of the J bed has the onions in it, and they're doing a little bit better than I was expecting. You can see that a lot of them are up and strong and green now. They just have to start growing a little bit bigger. We do have a couple gaps, actually pretty much just one gap where there's one missing. It just looks like that because there's a little one right there. But yeah, these are doing pretty well. I'm hoping I got them in soon enough, and I'm hoping that they'll bulb up properly, but we'll see how it goes. I did what I could do, and now it's all up to Mother Nature to take care of them. Almost just walked out and completely forgot to show you the squash mound that got planted this week. So I bought a 100-foot by 6-foot roll of commercial grade fabric. I laid it across the squash mound. It reached all the way to the end and ran out. So we have 100 feet here to plant on. I put 44 pumpkins and squash and watermelons in here already, and I wanted to save the end of the spacing down here for whatever overflow I had out of the landscape, because I like to plant my vegetables with my flowers and stuff. So I still have a little bit of room down there next to the sunflowers that I can plant some overflow. That is actually a big weight off my shoulders because I love growing the pumpkins and having the pumpkins and gourds and stuff for the fall decorating. So that is awesome that I got that in and they can start taking off in the heat next week, because they would not do too well in the cell packs in the heat that's coming. They're going to do a lot better in the ground with that gray fabric, kind of cooling the soil over top of the squash mound instead of having the black fabric. I don't want to spend too much time here because there's not that much blooming, but you can see in the back the big tall Asiatic lilies are coming up, so they will be blooming here soon. There's a lot of buds on them. The yellow irises are just finishing up now, so we're in that period between iris season and lily season, I call it. So we have a lot of irises, lilies, and hostas here on the property. So whenever they're in full bloom, the whole property looks pretty nice. So I'm calling it right now, we're in the middle of those two seasons, and lily season will be popping off next week. Next to the pathway, I did do some weeding to try and get these calla lilies to have some space on the row as they're coming up, and they're looking really nice. They're all alive this year and coming back, and then we even have them bordering the walkway back to the bench, so they're going to be all blooming this year, looking beautiful. On the outside of the island here, I pulled out all that Mexican feather grass that was in here. It all died back. It didn't survive the winter as expected, but I left it in there just for the texture and color. And I plugged in now this time 5 Mondo grass that I got from Lowe's on discount for $1 a piece. So keep a lookout for some good deals because I got a lot of plants the other day for $1 a piece. The heuchera is looking nice and actually coming into bloom. You can see they're not very showy flowers. Very tiny, very ethereal looking flowers, but the foliage color is really what you buy them for. All the blooms are just bonus. The shepherd's hook out here is looking nice. I got to get some water on this New Guinea impatient, but check out the sunflower at the bottom. That's a volunteer sunflower. I couldn't plant that if I wanted to. The dogs would probably step on it if I tried to plant it there, but Mother Nature got it there, and I'm going to try and get it all the way up to the top, strap it in, and have a beautiful sunflower right there in the center, again like I did last year. So you can see, even on the daylilies, they're all coming up right now ready to bloom. And I got a whole row of them going down the driveway, and they're gonna look really nice this year. It's the third year that they've been in this spot, so I can't wait to see these ones bloom. Next week will be lily season, so make sure you're subscribed. If you follow the fragrance of honeysuckle, it'll bring you up here to the pergola. We got birds in the silver lace, 2 finches. I know this birdhouse gourd here is occupied, and so is that one. Plus we have baby robins right here in the honeysuckle. I don't want to bother her if she's in there, but see if I can zoom in. There's the baby robins in there. And there's Mama Robin right there yelling at me. So we'll make this quick. The honeysuckle is blooming beautifully with the yellows and the whites, and it smells amazing. Good 15 feet around. I'm trying to get it trained up to be a little bit taller. Right now it kind of looks like Cousin It. But yeah, we're still working on that one. Beautiful little pathway that I made here with the silver lace archway. The silver lace is in full bloom now, so it's looking gorgeous. You can see that with the sun coming through. There's beautiful white blooms draped all across this plant, and it's just a joy to walk underneath. Down below we have the rooster statue. We have a nice big pink lily that's going to be coming up here soon, and the Echinacea is massive. Look at this thing. This is that's good 4-foot Echinacea at this moment right now. I don't know if it's going to get any taller, but we'll see. We got the hostas in here, and something else that I got planted this week, actually today, is all my gourds. So you can see in between all this volunteer calendula, and I've been pulling this out and putting it in different places. I just pulled these out, so that's why they look horrible. I probably should have waited till nighttime to transplant those, but oh well, I got more to pull from. We got some other gourds, snake gourds, caveman club gourds, hopefully birdhouse and apple gourds, but I actually didn't start any of those this year, but I have some volunteers that I'm hoping are birdhouse or apple. Then we have some blueberries, tomatoes that volunteered here vigorously. I actually pulled out a bunch of them, so I'm letting a few go just to cover up the pergola here. And then a full row of gourds going down here as well. It's hard to see with all the weeds and the wood chips, but there's some nice healthy gourds in here. Hopefully they're going to do pretty well this year. I'd like to get these gourds to come up the whole backside and sides of the pergola and across the top like they do every year. And then they'll have dangling gourds all through here, so it's going to look really nice. So the pergola was supposed to be a jungle garden this year, but that's not really happening as well as I was hoping, because none of my elephant ears or canna lilies made it through the winter. So I need to get better at winterizing plants, because all my plants that I winterized over, none of them survived. No dahlias, no elephant ears, and no canna lilies. So what I'm going to do is probably get some from the store and plant them up here and maybe try again winterizing them this year. It's a really nice area over here right now with the yellow maple giving a spot of color. The ash tree's in a really good spot right now with its growth. I do need to finish the poplar bed, but this place is going to look really good whenever all these lilies are popping off. Speaking of lilies, we have more daylilies back here forming a beautiful hedge, and they're going to be adding a lot of needed color to this backside of the island and food forest. Back in there we have a peace lily blooming. It's its second year. I plugged that in last year after the bloom time, so it's pretty much its first year back there. Beside the fern you can see we have some astilbe that's putting on its buds as well. We even have a bleeding heart that's finishing up a bloom. So behind the lilies, hopefully as the lilies are going or as they're finishing up, we'll have the astilbe back there just adding a little bit of color. Oh, we have some coreopsis blooming over here on the backside as well. A big old coreopsis just looking good right now. Bright punchy yellow flowers. Has the red blood good Japanese maple right next to it. And I'm seeing for the first time now that we have a hosta blooming. So it's coming into hosta bloom season, I guess, for the Empress Wu. Poppy, go. Out here in the young food forest, we have raspberries and blackberries popping up everywhere that I'm gonna have to do some containing with, but we don't have any fruit yet. You can see we have a bunch of blooms this year compared to last year, so we are going to be getting some berries, but I'm letting them go and just go wild for now until I can come in here and do some full maintenance on them. Oh, way over there, I'm in the food forest, but way over there, there's a big old privet blooming. I can smell it just blowing in the wind. It's not the best fragrance on that. If I could describe it, it would probably be like a good smelling cat pee. It doesn't bloom the longest, so that's a good thing. Another thing that I got planted is my sweet potato bed out here. It's not the biggest sweet potato bed, but I do have 6 plants in here, and hopefully I'll be able to get some to the finish line, because last year the deer or rabbits came and ate all mine to a nub. So we'll see how they go this year. Stay tuned. My wigwam for my tomatoes out here are doing great. I've just been wrapping it up, and I haven't actually done a lot of maintenance to my tomatoes. I need to come out here and pull all the suckers off for sure, but I just wanted to let them get established before I came in and did any heavy pruning to them. The peppers are looking a lot greener, more stout, and they're starting to put on a lot of growth, so they're starting to take. The peppers are actually turning a lot darker green than they were when I planted them, so I know they're taking in the ground and starting to put on some good growth. Some more calendula. So my potatoes are doing amazing out here. That is 100 feet of big green potatoes. This area over here, I spaced the potatoes out a little bit more just to fill in the space. But we do have some sunflowers popping up in the back, so that's going to be really nice on the back side of these. That's if the deer don't eat them whenever they get about 6 inches tall. While planting the sweet potatoes yesterday, I threw some compost in here for mulching the strawberries because it looked like they needed them. And I was able to pick 3 or 4 strawberries out of here that were good to eat before I layered in all the compost. You can see there's a bunch more coming. These are the everbearing type, and if they weren't planted in the shade of this these are the everbearing type of strawberries, and you can see if they weren't planted in the shade of this massive maple tree, then I might be getting a lot more strawberries out of this bed. So I might need to move this strawberry bed out to where the sweet potatoes are, but it doesn't have a bottom, so I've been trying to think of the best way to do it without just transplanting all the strawberries. So that might be all I need to do is just transplant them, but just been kind of avoiding it. Poppy, you trying to play? We're trying to do a garden tour here, buddy. Ooh, my black raspberries are putting on a lot of fruit here. So that's going to be a nice harvest I can get if I can get to them before the birds do. All the tomatoes I planted out here in the dead sun without hardening them off at all are doing really nice. So I got lucky there and they didn't all burn up. They're actually starting to flower now. I need to come in through here and take off the suckers, but they're doing really good where they are. Some of you know that we are building a decorative koi pond and waterfall here on the property, and we did get some rain the other day, so we're at a point where it started to fill up, and it's not completely full yet, but it's starting to give me the idea of what it's going to look like. It's also starting to look nice with a lot of the annuals that I planted around it, so we're going to head down to the patio area that we spend most of our time and see what's blooming down there. This cream daisy that I got from Lowe's on clearance, half off, is doing amazing, starting to really take off and put on a lot of blooms. My specimen poppy plant right beside it is a gorgeous color, and it's filling in that area. That's just one poppy plant that I left there. It volunteered in a beautiful spot, so I just left it go. It volunteered out of this bed, which is the poppy bed, and it's doing pretty good right now. It's in full bloom in bright punchy yellows. All these are California poppies, so they'll open up during the day and close during the night. Go tell them. You tell them, puppy. Puppy. Yeah. All right, puppy, all right. So the roses are alive that I thought I killed by pruning them too early, but they are putting on some beautiful buds and beautiful flowers. Nice and large flowers, which is kind of making me not want to take these ones out and put these ones out into the landscape. But I think since these ones have the larger blooms than the Proven Winner Oh So Easy line that I'm going to be replacing them with, these ones have the larger blooms, so we'll be able to see them from further away. So maybe they will look better out into the landscape instead of close up right here on the patio. We also have a beautiful yellow rose blooming right here that just has the perfect structure of a rose. Oh, and it's fragrant. So the pond's really coming along. It's starting to look nice. We have some blooms popping up along the outside of it, and we're getting pretty far along with the stonework. The glorious lupin is finally finishing up. I pulled off dozens of seed pod stalks already, and you can see there's still a bunch on there, but there's still a few on there putting off a little bit of purple color. I'm not going to go through all the plants right now. Maybe once I'm finished planting out, we'll be able to go through and show you where everything is, but it is looking pretty good up here, and everything's growing really well. The carpet of portulaca is starting to fill in and bloom nicely. And the rest of the pond is looking nice and big. We're getting a lot of the stonework done. Trying to get the intake bay where all the pumps go finished off. But I really need the rain just to give me another foot or so of water so I can make everything work. It's been so fun working on the pond this year. If you're interested in how the pond's being built, go down to the description below, check out all our other channels, and subscribe to our Whitt Acres Aquatics channel. You'll be able to see the step-by-step process of building the koi pond. So these lilies in the ramp bed are ridiculously tall. Look at them. They're huge. They're almost 6 feet tall because I'm pretty much standing eye to eye with them. I'm 6'4", and they're sitting on a little bit of a bank, so they're up off the ground a little bit, but they are just massively tall. I'm actually a little worried about them because we're supposed to be getting some gusty winds here in the next day or two, so I'm wondering if I should try and stake those up, but I'm thinking they're going to be good unless we get some ridiculous 60-mile-an-hour winds or something. The Spiderwort is covered in buds. You can just see little specks of purple all over this thing, just waiting for it to burst. And the penstemon that I put in this year is just still going. The bees love this one too. You can see there's one on it now. I had to put a little bungee cord on it with a hook just to hold it up that much because this one was falling over, but it's a newer plant, so it's not that much established as the rest of them. Look at that bee, just working. But it did really good this year. I'm glad I put it in. It has a dark foliage with all the green foliage, and it's been blooming for so long in this early season. All right, we're gonna end the tour here. I'm not gonna go out front this time because my neighbors are out and I don't like talking in front of people. So if you want to see more tours, go down below, hit the subscribe button, hit that like button before you leave, and you can see me and Echo on the next one. Thanks for watching.